What's up, what's up, what's up? You're now listening to the Miami Poshcast. And we are back. We're season 4. We are so happy to see everybody. It's been a minute, but we've been up to some amazing things. We're actually now in our studio, so that's why we've been MIA for a while. But we are back better than ever, and we got some amazing topics, amazing people, and conversation. So let's get into it. So it's Poshinista Portia here.
Neekafaye, hey.
Yes, and then today we have the amazing Jill Pavlov here. So Jill is an amazing copywriter and comedian, and she currently is living in Miami, Florida. She's the owner of CopyPop. I love that name. A copywriting studio that brings a punch of personality to your done-for-you copy by writers who are professional comedians. I love that angle. Jill studied theater at Muhlenberg College. Did I pronounce it right?
Muhlenberg.
The
Fighting Mules, Division 3.
Nice. Where she joined her very first sketch comedy group. Since then, she's performed with multiple other comedy groups as well as performing stand-up. She's a student of the world-famous The Second City. Amazing bio.
Really, I like the way it was hyped. When I wrote it, it was like not that exciting, but thank you for hyping it up.
It always sounds better when she says it.
She did a great job. You're hired.
I love that. So tell me about CopyPop. I love the name too. So tell me a little bit about that.
I'm so thrilled you love the name because it is brand new. I was completely operating under a different name for the past 2 years, which was Your Creative Concierge, because when I started my copywriting business, that's what I wanted to be. I was basically like, whatever you need creatively, I will do it. I just wanted to put everything under the umbrella and see what stuck.
Yep.
And as I really refined what I was doing and as the personality of the brand grew, it just no longer felt right. And even the colors weren't feeling right. So it was time to do a complete refresh. And CopyPop just popped into my head one night. I love popcorn. I love pop culture. I love pop stars. And I love to make people's personalities pop on and off the page.
So how did you think about making professional comedians integrate into that?
Yeah, that was another thing that I just kind of grew into was once I realized that I was going to eventually need help because I had too much work and not enough time to write. I was spending all my time writing. I was like, all right, I need to hire someone. And I just realized that a lot of the reason that people trusted me with their copy, or a lot of the reasons that, I don't want to say that I sold people, but a lot of the reasons that people hired me was because I was a comedian and they were seeing me out there and they were seeing how well-spoken I am, how well-written I am, because, everything that you perform in stand-up is written out. So, and I think it just has that extra appeal, almost like you're working with a celebrity too. There's that kind of level of oh, this person's on a stage and they're doing something for me. And that's kind of the hidden psychology behind it.
Love
that.
But
I wanted to stay true to that. So I was like, anyone else that I hire, I want them to be a comedian. And on the other side of that, comedians work really hard. This is a tough industry. And it's hard to hold down something like a 9-to-5 and be a comedian because you're doing late nights. So a lot of people are in the hospitality industry. But also a lot of comedians are sober. So it's really hard to be in the hospitality industry when you're sober. I've tried it. It doesn't work for me personally. So I wanted to give comedians a place where they could make money on their own time, on their own schedule, without having to report somewhere, without having to be tempted by things that might be in the hospitality industry, and a way to use their talents in a different way so that they can support themselves while chasing their dreams. So it has benefits for the writers and the clients. And I just fell in love with the idea and went with it.
That is awesome.
Win-win. I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very curious. You kind of just hit it right on the head of how you would take copywriting. I tell you, I had some background in that, and then comedy, and the way you just married that—that's pretty dope.
Yeah, and it doesn't always mean that the copy that we produce is going to be hysterically funny or filled with humor. It just means that comedians understand psychology. People who have been through theater, we know how to get into a character's head and learn about their motivations. And that's really what we're doing when we're selling, is we're learning about our target audience's motivations and what they desire and what they want and what they need. And I just really feel strongly that most comedians just get that, and it just translates so well to copywriting.
That was a great segue because I want to know, how did you transition? Because you mentioned that comedy is extremely hard,
With the
right?
9 to 5.
Yeah, with a 9 to 5, grueling, and I can only imagine it takes a lot of, like, you guys got to be like fearless too to stand up there and be so vulnerable. How did you go from a 9 to 5 and like whatever corporate America to comedy and stand up? How the heck?
I definitely was a product of the pandemic. Like, I think many entrepreneurs, you hear so many people started their business like in 2020. And I was working for a corporate job as a copywriter. I was working for a travel agency and writing about all these gorgeous destinations from my beautiful cubicle. And it just it didn't seem right. And then once I got a taste of that work from home life and they asked me to come back to the office, I was like, hell no. And I had a freelance client on the side already because my corporate job wasn't paying me enough. Similar story to a lot of people. Like, your corporate job doesn't pay for your life, especially down here in Florida. So I already had a freelance client. I was like, I could probably make more money by getting freelance clients, spend less time. And I went for it.
Yeah.
And it was born. And I forgot the root question.
No, just like, how did you go from corporate America or 9 to 5 to like actually standing up on a stage doing stand up?
Oh yeah, so then I've always done comedy. Like, I was a theater kid in high school and everything, but I definitely had abandoned the dream for like quite a while. I hadn't really done anything theatrical. And I do remember like sitting at my desk at work and like watching videos of pop stars and being like, they're so lucky that they get to live out their dreams.
Yeah.
And so I think leaving the job kind of also gave me the courage. And I had never actually pursued stand-up at that point. I had only ever done sketch and improv. Stand-up was something that seemed terrifying to me. And I was like, well,
no, that's why I asked that question.
Yeah, I was like, all right, I got to try it. Let's see. And it's still the scariest thing. Like, sitting here and doing a podcast, easy breezy. Getting up there and doing sketch comedy that I've rehearsed, easy. Even when I go to write stand-up, I still get to the paper. I'm like, you are so unfunny. It's hard.
Well, I've seen your videos. You kill it. And I love
you.
the ones that you talk about with your husband and stuff. Like, those are so funny to me. But I know there was one time, I definitely never thought I was a comedian. So let me preface with that. And I still don't. But there was one time, not as a dare, but anyways, I got on stage. It was open mic night, and I wanted to see if I could do it. Like, I don't think I'm a comedian, but I think I'm funny. Right? And I know you probably hear that all the time. And that's gotta be like your pet peeve.
Everyone's always trying to sell me jokes in my life. They're like, hey.
Like,
oh my God. And no one more than my own father. No one more than my own father.
That's gotta be so cringe. Like, as I was saying it, I was like, oh, no, don't finish.
Crossing that bridge.
Yeah. But I say all of that to say, when I got up there, I was like, well, what am I gonna do? So I just told the couple, like, for 2 minutes, some jokes. And it was a very empty stand. Like I need you to know, it was already a very empty night, like, for that open mic or whatever. But it was scary. It was like also exhilarating. It was like vulnerable, and you're just like, I got one laugh, and I thought that was like, I did my job. I did. I
mean, that's more than most people get.
I was like, that's it.
And going up there, I mean, most comedians have been working their material for a year, months, a year. Like, the stuff that you see that's getting laughs, that's getting on, TV
Netflix
and stuff.
specials,
That is stuff that has been cultivated over years. So to get up there, and just very few comedians can just get up there and have that natural ability. Like, Nick Swartzen is someone who gets up there, and I don't know how he does it. He probably does a different set every single night, and he's just hilarious. He's been doing it since he was 17.
Yeah. It's like almost like a motor skill at that point.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like how people are brilliant, like they brilliantly play piano or something like that when you start it that young.
I don't know. That is amazing. I don't know.
I'm just trying, because you've been theater, so you're familiar with the stage. So it's not, if I'm mistaken, correct me, but not so much of being on the stage. But what is it? When did you decide, you know what, I'm going to try stand-up? This is my next thing. This is this next venture, my next step. This is the way I want to go.
I think once I quit my job and I started my own business, I was like, I need to find the most immediate way to get on a stage. I think that's really what it came down to.
You're
and
like,
I was like, I think I was
stand-up.
looking at different like classes, and I found a stand-up class. I was like, great, that will do.
Yeah. Oh man,
And,
that was just
yeah.
that easy.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. No, I just need to get to the stage.
Yeah, like I just need a stage to be on, and that just started opening so many different doors and creative possibilities. And
I can only imagine, because another thing about comedians, and it's like a gift as well as maybe a curse, is I feel like the audience members, they think they know you. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
They feel like you get up there, you're vulnerable, and they're like, oh, I relate with that. Like, oh, I know you. And like people, that's why I said people got to be coming up to you like after shows and stuff and just be like, I'm funny, or say cringeworthy thing, or even worse, like prying, maybe because you were
offended
vulnerable
them.
or transparent about this particular part of your life. You know what I mean?
yeah. I think that's the scariest part about doing stand-up, is that you're not up there being a character. Like if I were in a sketch comedy show, I'm up there as Jill Pavlov, bearing my raw, funny soul, because the funniest things are often like the worst things about our lives. Like when my life is going really well, I'm way less funny. When my life is going to shit, there is so much to joke about.
Yeah.
But so that being said, you're going up there and you're telling some of your deepest, darkest. And then there's also the thing that like you're also exaggerating a little bit. So like I literally have a very crass joke about something that me and my husband do in the bedroom that is not something we actually do. And I would be horrified if someone actually thought that we did it, but it's a great joke and I tell it. So there's also that. Some people will believe what you say and you just kind of got to be like, all right, I can't control what you think of me. So
great segue. Again, you mentioned your husband. Are there, as a comedian, like jokes that are off limits? Like, is he just like fair game? He's a good sport about it?
Yeah, he's a good sport and he secretly wants to be up on that stage himself. I can feel it. And I don't even think he would deny it.
You're like, how's the fastest way to get on stage? He's like, Jill.
yeah. That's a love language right there. Is just making fun of each other. Reading each other to filth.
Yeah, I think that's definitely my husband and I.
It is, but like I can only make fun of you if I'm really truly comfortable with you.
Right.
It's a sign of love.
Yeah, because if not, it's like mean and bullying and and when I don't know you, I won't even really not even joke with you. I'm not even gonna say much to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I'm like going in, oh, we're like tight. We're like family. We're closest like you can get. Like I'm gonna go there.
Exactly.
I love
the
that.
closest gets the best of you, the worst of you, all of it, right?
All of it.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm curious because we kind of just touched on a little bit there, right? When you do go in and you're this comfort you have. So we know like now it's a big thing with cancel culture and, you got to be careful what you say, because I remember when the point of comedy was to be funny and to say what you wanted to say. And there was no like, oh, I don't want to say that, right? It wasn't like politically correct comedy. But now it's kind of more of a thing. So are you feeling that? Are you kind of seeing what's going on with the cancel culture?
I know. I'm always the type of person that like plays devil's advocate in every. So I see both sides, but my personal philosophy is to never punch down.
Yeah.
I don't think any topic is off limits to make fun of, but it's in the way that you do it. You have to like show compassion. For example, I did a whole comedy set for a breast cancer fundraiser, and I've very fortunately not had breast cancer myself. And it was a challenge of like, okay, how do I make breast cancer funny and not punch down? But I found a way. There was a way to like make fun of the ridiculous things women have to go through when they have it. That kind of worked. So I think that as long as you're coming from a good place and maybe trying to see the I don't want to say the good in it, but I just think the main thing is to not punch down.
That makes sense. And I've kind of noticed also that a lot of comedians are almost now leaning into the anti-cancel culture in their bit. Do you see that as a trend or no?
I think the thing is that like people aren't really being canceled anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's true
you know,
too.
like
That's true
I
too.
haven't really seen like Diddy being canceled. Like he just kind of
Yeah.
like ran away and everyone was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I haven't really seen anything
Yeah,
come
he
up
talked
about
shit,
it.
but then-
You know, or
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other people. Army Hammer, like freaking 8 people or something. And
Yeah.
he's just fine. So I think that cancel culture becomes like this threat and people will be in the news cycle for maybe a week and then they're
Then
not
they're
actually canceled anymore. So
They're,
they're.
it's like more like they're on timeout.
It's
Like
time out, yeah. Go
Yeah,
sit in
yeah,
the corner by
go on timeout
yourself.
for a little bit, and then they're like, "All right, I'm out." I'm out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because like Will Smith's like totally doing movies. And
Right.
stuff.
We
So
forget
how
so
about we
easily.
Just cancel culture.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm down for canceling. So I am like you. I play devil's advocate. I'm like, there's certain things that maybe just because I'm like I'm a geriatric millennial.
I love it.
Not you saying those words out
I'm
loud.
a geriatric millennial. Like I
Oh.
barely just made it, right?
Clutch my
I
pearl.
know. But so it's like I'm from the school of the generation before. It's where you just like makes you tougher. Like all this stuff is makes you tougher. You know what I mean? What doesn't kill you make you stronger. And then like watching the newer generation, which is a little bit more sensitive in certain areas, but also seeing how certain things trigger them, being like empathetic to that too.
Yeah.
So it's tough for me because like well, when I watch comedy, I don't like when they pussyfoot around like the topic. But like you said, as long as you're not being like extremely cruel or singling out somebody in particular, and you could still make a point and be funny.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And just not be
exactly.
like a hypocrite about it. And I feel like a lot of stand-up now has been doing that and doing that well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would definitely agree.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're moving towards a new generation of comedy where we kind of meet in the middle.
Heck yeah.
Punch down. I like that. You know, I think I'm gonna take that to school.
I think I said it like 4 different times just because there's no
Yeah.
other phrase that works that well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of punch down, women, let's talk about like
Damn.
like no, hear me out and see where we're
All
going
right,
with
come
this.
on now.
I feel like sometimes women we've been punched down upon.
I'll say that.
And with that being said, how is it being in this industry as a female?
Yeah, it's it's definitely. And up tonight, our first female comedian of the night.
Oh,
You
no.
definitely have to get used to a lot of that.
Damn. Not just a comedian. Your
No,
first
you're
comedian.
always introduced as a female comedian, which is just like it's. I know it's, and there was a part of me that was excited to be like in the more minority because like, for example, like if you're a cis white male, there are so many cis white males in comedy that it's just so generic at this point and they have a much tougher time standing out. So I do think it's easier to stand out as a female in comedy, and I do like that advantage. But then again, I did have to stay away from open mics for a hot minute because of them just ignoring the ring on my finger. And that I just can't.
Yeah.
I needed a break from that.
And that's got to be kind of tough because even on a non-open night, you're always going to get like if people are intoxicated and it's late night, like I'm sure all the creeps come out like towards the end of the set. You know what I mean? Like, ugh.
Well, my question, are those creeps more of the audience or
Nope.
See, that's what I was
She
thinking.
knew exactly what I was
that's
talking
exactly
about. Oh yeah.
Oh, you guys, y'all are good.
Uh-huh.
All right.
And the thing too is that a lot of like the local open mics, like probably the one that you did too, it sounds like, you know, there's not a lot of people there. It's usually just a lot of other comics and then people trying to eat dinner or watch the sports game at whatever place it happens to be at. So it does end up being like a lot of the comics that are there. And
Oh, that's unfortunate.
yeah.
In 2024? Damn. Oh, man. Okay.
She's still the female comedian in 2020.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I know.
True. All right. So we've talked about CopyPop.
Check.
We've talked about your comedic background
Prowess.
and stand-up
Right,
comedian.
That's that copywriter right
there we
there.
go.
That's the copywriter. Yes, she comes out quite often.
Love that. Let's get a little bit into your improv background. And I know I've seen some of your stuff where you also get some of your clients to do some improv like activities and stuff like that. Tell me
Yeah,
about
this
that.
is a new thing. So by the time we're published here, I'm actually at the day before my very first Improv for Entrepreneurs event. By the time this airs, we will have been through it. So congratulations, future Jill.
Yeah.
You made it. Great job.
Yeah.
Everyone loved it. Everyone loves you. What were we talking about? No, so it was actually my friend Summer, who owns a networking company called Rose and Hustle, exclusively for females. We've gotten to know each other over the past year, and she was really the one that thought of the idea of improv for entrepreneurs. And I immediately was like, heck yes, because studying at the Second City, a lot of people come to improv not because they want to be comedians. They come there because they want to get better at public speaking or have more
Really?
confidence. Yeah, my very first improv class with Second City Chicago, I actually did it in person. It was a week-long intensive. So people came from all over the country, but mostly Chicago. And there were a few people there that had no interest in pursuing anything in comedy. They were just there because, they have corporate programs at the Second
Yeah.
City. So it's definitely not a new thing, but the way that we're doing it is going to be a lot more fresh.
That is so cool.
Pop. We're gonna make
Oh, I see what y'all
everyone
did there.
pop. But it's just so cool because it's a really fun way to network, to get out of your shell, and to like learn how to pitch yourself, because as an entrepreneur, you're constantly needing to pitch yourself. So that's learning how to be concise. That's learning how to get to the main points. That's learning how to have confidence. And improv teaches you all of that. Quick thinking. If someone asks you a question, instead of
Yeah.
like you'll never see me because if I lose the thought, there's usually always another thought like
Yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And that's because I took my first improv class when I was in 5th grade. Like I was hooked.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
I love that. So so I feel like the audience
Hey, here we
wants
go.
us to get a sample of an improv activity that you would give your client, and we will participate. Whatever improv activity or experience you want to give us,
All right,
let's do it.
let's do it. Let's start with the first one that comes to my mind is we can play one word story.
Okay.
We're going to go around the
One
circle.
word story.
Okay. I don't know it.
And we're going to build a story
All right.
one word at a time. So you'll start.
Okay.
Nika will add on, and then I'll add on. And at any point, if you want to end the sentence, you can say period instead of saying a word.
Okay. Flamingo.
Is
A
Lovely.
animal.
and
Nice.
What? Lovely
day
With
flamingos.
period.
All right, come on, we gotta do that. We gotta run that back. We gotta run that
Okay.
back. Come on.
All right, you can start.
Yesterday,
I
Hated.
that
this
And
bit
my
fucking.
ankle. Goddammit.
period.
I feel like we playing this wrong.
You gotta think about the
I think Portia's just shouting out random words.
I think you're right. I'm like, maybe this goes here. I don't know. All right, give us another exercise.
All right, let's see. All right, this one's a little similar. Maybe it'll be a little bit easier. So the premise of improv is yes and, which is way more than an Ariana Grande song, even though I love it. A stan. Yes and the concept is that in improv, you never say no because that shuts down a
Okay.
scene. And it applies to business as well because it's about taking risks and going with the flow and going with the ideas that are presented with you and just seeing where it takes you. So in improv, you're always saying yes and you're never saying no.
Oh, I love that.
So I'll start with the phrase and I'll say, this is a gorgeous studio. And then Portia will go, yes, and then you build on that. And we're just going to keep building on it with yes, and. So everyone will start their sentence with yes, and.
Okay, you start.
So I'll start with the prompt. I'll say, this is a gorgeous studio.
Yes, and it took a lot of love and hard work.
And
Yes.
and it was so worth it.
Yes, and I feel honored to be here right now.
Yes, and I feel so grateful.
Yes. And this is a lot of fun.
Yes, and I'm wondering when we're going to end it.
Yes, and I think now.
Yes, and I agree. Period.
Not that I want it to end also.
Oh my God. But that is a great note to end it on. And man, this was fun. Definitely. How can anybody reach out to you and if they wanted to connect on any aspect?
So for now, while I'm still getting my social set up for CopyPop, just contact me on Instagram at ComedyJill, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Jill Pavlov. Same thing with Facebook. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Yes, I love that. Yes, and I love that. But yeah, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Miami Poshcast. This has been amazing. We can't wait to see what other fun things we have in store and share with you guys.
Looking forward to
Thank you
it.
guys so much.
Well, thanks so much for listening to another amazing episode of Miami Poshcast. Please subscribe.